a $10,000 increase, which was 7%, and the majority of that was in electricity, and I think that was for the additional lights at a variety of parks, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then under capital outlay, the increase of $40,000 is for the pay machines that were funded as an enhancement. And then we go into recreation, so we can look at recreation and then we'll do the capital projects for both Parks and Rec together. On page 35, we have recreation, a summary of the general fund revenue and expenses. The revenue increased by 7% from $217,000 to $232,000. All of that in charges for services. And then if you go down on the page, the expenses increased 6% from $1.1 million up to $1,178,000, and salary and wages increased 6% by $33,000. Majority of that was in regular salaries, which increased by $28,000. The benefits increased by $31,000. Almost all of that was in the health insurance expense. There was
So is that just people qualifying now?
Right, different staff that just take maybe family coverage instead of individual, just the more expensive health insurance.
Because that seems to be a trend in flipping through this.
As we have new staff, maybe they're just electing a different health insurance plan, and the cost, or it's an increased cost. And there was no change in contracted services. Other charges, it was a $5,000 increase, and the majority of that was in bank service related to online payments. On page 36, we have supplies and materials for recreation. We saw a $6,000 decrease there. Mostly in program supplies and materials, and then capital outlay, there was no change in the budget requested. Any questions on recreation operating? Page 37, we have a summary of, there's 2 grants for recreation, the Summer Days grant and just a general recreation grant. The budget remained the same for those 2, a total of $55,000. That's in a separate fund outside of the general fund. And then Karen will go through the capital projects for Parks and Rec.
Might be easier to just take the pages 15 through
Right, and
20 out of the binder. That way we're not flipping back and forth on all the.
and then we also will go over the other enhancements, but we can look at capital first. And there was, do you know what page the summary was on, the priority list? That might be helpful.
51.
51, okay.
That's for parks. Yeah, the
For
parks.
parks.
Is there a waiting list at our airport for tie downs and hangars and all that? Okay.
So on page 51 in the binder is this summary for the parks projects in order of priority. The only thing is the pay machine is on here and we moved that to operating.
So the total for parks for FY24 was $3.2 million. Over the next 6 years is a total of $30 million. I don't know if there's any in particular that you guys want to go over, some of the larger projects, or if you just want to run down each one. How do you guys prefer to go through these?
Where are you? What page are you on? Page 15, I believe, right?
Steve, do you know at the top of your
18, I'm
head
sorry.
the improvements
So
to our
it's a bonus grant,
dugouts,
that's
what the total
easier.
cost on that was?
Around 30.
Really? Thank you.
And there was 3, if you look on page 51 on the priority list, there was 3 that were not included in the county administrator's capital budget. That was numbers 10, 11, and 12. So those were not included in the proposed county administrator's budget.
12 was the, oh, yeah, 12 was the artificial turf fields. We moved that out a couple of years.
Right, right,
It
we
is in the
moved
budget,
that
but it's out in
yes.
the out years. And those are artificial turf fields for
White Marsh.
White Marsh Park.
We split those up and put, 2.5
Right now
million
it's
in
18,
25 and
and
2.5
that's it.
million in 26.
And then the only project for recreation, I believe is in the out years, that's on page 17. And that is for a new rec center, so there's 100,000 in FY '25 and 10 million in FY '26.
I thought we were funding the budget, or the study for this cycle, no?
We initially put it in for, I thought we initially put it in for 24.
I thought it was in for 50 for a study for,
Yeah, I think it was originally submitted 100,000 and 10 million for 24, 25. That was pushed out 1 year as well. I mean, we can adjust that if you want to do the study sooner. It's something we can certainly discuss, review.
food for thought.
Yep, okay.
But that's what the study was, 100,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I don't think we'd get too much with the $50,000
Okay,
study.
that's fine, yeah.
Any questions on capital? Any
Do you want to
projects you
go
want to
over
go
any
through?
of them?
Entirely up to you.
Well, I mean, I sat down and just, the rest of the guys didn't sit in on all these, so if they have questions, I know what all these are.
Yeah, these were reviewed heavily by the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. Commissioner Moran sits on that committee as a liaison, and so he has had a chance to look at this
And the advisory board's the one
in
that,
detail.
Are you increasing the size of that, the hockey rink? Or you just,
It's
no,
gonna be the
same dimensions,
footprint,
just new pavement, new boards? Are you gonna, there gonna be restrictions on that use?
yeah.
Who can use it?
I mean, it would be an open facility, and people can also rent it out if they'd like, just to secure their time as they get closer to that particular season.
Okay.
The new board system will take lacrosse balls, the ones we have now will. That's the-
All right.
you say will or will not?
They will.
It will, once it's,
Hockey boards, so
okay.
they're not street hockey,
Mhm.
true hockey.
Mhm. Any questions?
Good.
Good? On the capital?
Jack?
Wow, that was painless.
It was,
Yeah.
felt good. So far.
Do we want to go over the other two enhancements for parks? I think you had two positions. Do you want to go over those?
Yes.
One's funded.
One is funded. There was,
It was a park ranger supervisor that wasn't, or what?
It was not.
it's on page 45 in the
All
binder,
right.
the two positions. The ranger was not funded.
There were two supervisory positions, one a crew supervisor for the Rangers, and then a crew supervisor for their general maintenance crews, one of which we funded, I funded. And then the other one was, the other enhancement we talked about was the pay machines, which would go in the operations budget as well.
So the crew supervisor wasn't, the ranger wasn't,
Was not funded.
and why that, why they ask for that?
By that, as that program begins to build up, right now, we've got two full-time rangers. During the season, we're anticipating on having about 15 seasonal rangers. They're also not only doing, park patrols during the year, but now we've also incorporated them into doing programs with recreation. So, their duties are expanding more as a ranger position should. And
So
then
who oversees those
Right
15
now-
seasonal?
Right now, James and Chris Jones split it, and it's leaning more heavily on James, because there's a lot of the enforcement that goes with the landings as well. So you kind of need that in-between person who can be on the ground with them and, assisting and setting up their schedules and the day-to-day stuff, in addition to what James does.
So in the summertime, so we'll have 17
We're
park ranger people, okay. So in the summertime, say on the weekends, how many will you have working at one time? I'm
probably,
I'm gonna make a point.
we got 2 shifts, and what we're gonna do is we station them now to be at Mattapique, at Terrapin, and then Ferry Point as well, in order to make sure that those facilities are being utilized right. So you're gonna have 2 people per schedule, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 12.
12
Sorry, 12.
on a Saturday and a Sunday?
12
2
on
shifts-
Saturday, 12 on Sunday.
So 2 shifts of 6?
Correct. As you're doing 2, 2, and 2 at each site for an 8-hour
Okay,
shift.
all right, so
In
it's,
addition to, and then we'd have the ability of our full-time rangers to go around and see other sites as well.
it's a lot of people to be looking after.
What I,
Is that we're less park staff overtime.
yeah.
The only reason that I ask, and I don't know if not funding that, and I don't know how the other guys feel about that, but, we're, during the summertime when it's busy, that's when we're under the microscope the most by our public and by the folks that visit our county. So if we have that many people working, we're really not gonna get a second chance to make a good first impression. So, I mean, I guess that's a conversation that maybe you have with James about his ability to manage all those people on busy weekends. And do we really need to bring a ranger supervisor on?
Here's the, if we don't have the rangers and we don't have the supervision that goes with, because we all know that staff needs supervision no matter at what level.
I was gonna let you
If-
say that, but I was thinking it.
So, in the meantime, in the last 4 years, we've had park staff and some recreation staff that has been filling in. So in addition to them working their 40 hours during the week, they're picking up another 8 or 16 hours on the weekend, and you're getting burned out. The first couple weeks are great. Everybody loves a little extra overtime and stuff like that. But at a certain point, now it's mandated because we want to make it fair and equitable to all staff to participate in that. So we're just not picking on, one person to work and pick up those hours. Now they're getting into August and September, they're getting burned out. As they survive that, now by the end of the year, now they got to burn all that comp time. So that means that's less work that's getting done during that September, October, November, December timeframe.
How many funded full-time positions do you have that are open right now?
Well, 2, and I'm waiting on offers being accepted.
That's it, just 2?
Okay.
Well,
I'm sorry, I
worried
take that
about
back. I've got
running
one
machines.
person just left, so I'll
It's
have
gonna
one
cost them.
vacancy.
That keeps people tied.
That parks or
Parks.
Yeah, but that doesn't help us because we're the ones on the ground, and that's, like you said, we get hammered.
Okay.
Anybody else? Bueno? All right. Moving
Okay,
on.
we'll move on to the airport.
Mhm.
That is on page 38.
We're talking capital, right?
Oh,
No,
airport
30
operating,
38,
yes.
go back.
One up later?
Good?
Yeah, I mean, look at the increases, they're so minimal. It's not a large operation.
Well,
I like those
same amount of
numbers.
money. I mean, it's, yes.
On page 38, we have the airport, which is an enterprise fund. So it's not included in the general fund. The airport did not have any enhancements for the FY24 budget request. The request was an increase of $15,000 from last year. Total revenue and expenses balance at $674,000, an increase from $659,000 from last year, which was 2%. If we look down at the expenses towards the bottom of the page, other charges was a minimal increase from $289,000 to $291,000. That was less than 1% increase there. On page 39, at the top, we still have other charges, and just a few small increases there. There was $2,400 for non-capital lease payments, and that was to lease a fuel truck. Supplies and materials was a 2% decrease from $149,000 to $146,000. Salaries and wages increased by $10,000, which was 7%, from 133 to 142. All of that was in the regular salaries. Contracted services increased by 13%, which was $6,000, from $45,000 to $51,000. Throughout the different accounts, repairs increased, and for both equipment and buildings. The benefits just had a slight increase of $1,700, from $40,500 to $42,000. And again, this is the enterprise fund, so it has to balance, and the revenues and expenditures both equaled $674,000.
And you might as well do capital too, right?
And the capital,
Any questions on operating on that? That's pretty cut and dry. So,
All right, the total capital for FY '24 for the airport is $185,000, and over the next 6 years is $9.3 million, the majority of which is the South Apron design and construction and the North Apron expansion, which is 90% federal funding, 5% state, and 5% county.
Right. So that 185,000 is how much is?
So that's actually a project that I think Lee Edgar will sort of manage. It's for the hangar maintenance. I don't know if there's any.
It's basically for a new roof for the main,
So that's not, none of that's grant, that's,
No.
okay.
The big blue hangar.
yes.
The big blue.
The big blue, yeah.
Okay.
It's overdue for some work, I think.
Quite overdue.
Yeah, quite overdue. That's the oldest hangar.
Yes.
When is the runway project gonna start?
It was supposed to be March 20th through June 6th, and then they couldn't acquire the needed supplies, so it's indefinitely postponed.
Indefinitely?
Definitely.
As
That
in
means they don't know
had-
when they're coming.
Correct. We don't,
Now, how does that work with the grant, and how does, I mean, is that something that, someone we hired, or is that someone that had to go through the process as far as federal? Or
both. So they are held to the price in their contract.
Really?
It's mainly electronic devices and for the lighting, for the runway improvements, and maybe you can elaborate on what it's not the asphalt, it's the,
No,
Some of
they
the-
own their own asphalt plant. It's not the asphalt.
Okay. Is it Bramble? Or
no, it was
Alan
Alan Meyer.
Oh,
They do
Alan Myers,
specialty,
that's right, that's right. $9 million or something, wasn't it?
Like 8.7, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Indefinite.
We're hoping for the fall, but I haven't gotten confirmation.
Definitely.
Thank God it's grant money. Anybody have any questions on that? Short and sweet, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
All
We have-
right.
The golf course is next, and that's on page 40.
How long have you been down there at the golf course?
17 years.
Is it 17? Good Lord.
I know. It's amazing.
Yeah, I thought you came on about the same time I did, but 17, you definitely got me beat.
I have kids that work for me that have kids that are playing down there. They're in junior golf camp now. I'm like, this doesn't seem right.
It's all good.
Right. Not that old.
Okay, page 40 and 41, we have the golf course, which again, like the airport, is an enterprise fund, and there's no enhancements for the golf course either. So the golf course total revenue and expenses increased by 8% from $627,000 in the FY23 budget to $679,000 in the FY24 budget. For the revenue, the majority of the increase was in charges for services, in golf fees and rental fees. A little bit of an increase in the driving range fees as well. You'll see the transfers in are budgeted at $186,000, which was an increase. But the last several years, the golf course, the revenue has exceeded the budget, and in '22, we didn't need any general fund transfer for the golf course.
Excellent.
It is excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep that going.
That's it. I retire. I'm out of here.
There you go.
Took me 17 years. I'm gone.
We'll see the expenses total is also $679,000. And the contracted services increased from 312 to 339,000. That was 9% increase, and the majority of that was in the maintenance agreements, and I think that was based on contractor increases, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Salaries and wages increased by 8,000 to 159,000, and that was in both part-time and regular salaries. And then if we move over to page 41, other charges increased by 9,000. It was 12% increase, up to 85,000 for FY '24, and that was spread throughout different accounts there. There were some lease payment increases, as well as some other increases in bank service and debt service as well. Supplies and materials increased by 8%, which was 5,000, from 67,000 to 72,000, and that was mostly in resale merchandise. The benefits increased by $2,500, from $20,700 to $23,000, and that was throughout the variety of the benefit accounts. That's all we had for golf course operating, and we can go over golf course. I think there was one capital project.
Yes, so the Blue Heron cart path is on page 15 of the capital budget summary. The amount for FY '24 is $275,000. No request for future years.
Eric, you want to explain what that is, and that additional trail amenity down
At the
there?
old 9?
At the old 9?
Yeah, that's holes 1 through 9, which we're doing the construction on right now. So that's 7,000 feet at a 7-foot wide cart path. It was broken down into, from Brambles gave me an estimate on both of them, so it was broken down into doing the sub-base stone and then paving on top. So just enable people to be able to play the holes 1 through 9 when it's wet, rainy, and they can't get on the other,
Right.
So it kind of gets jammed up on one side, or anybody who wants to play 18 has to play the same 9 twice, which sometimes is not appealing for a lot of people, or it gets busy, it gets stacked up on one side. So, and I think with the construction and the improvements that we're doing on the original 1 through 9 holes, we're gonna get a lot more requests for play, and want to be able to accommodate them.
Good. And the driving range keeps ticking up with usage?
Yeah, it has been. I mean, we started off with, I think we did, the previous year was, I think we killed it. So I think it was only budgeted to make 30 and it went to 49,000.
Yeah.
So
That's great. Good. That is very
every afternoon, it's, 5 o'clock after work. It's crazy down there.
We're pulling in that gravel parking lot going, no way. That just is
I
like,
appreciate that.
oh, man.
Pavement's so much better.
Oh, my God.
Nobody stole the sign recently, right?
Yeah, we've gone through a couple of those Big Daddy Drive signs, I guess, down there. I've heard. Yeah, it's a popular name down there.
Did we put a new one back up, or did we just give up on it?
We're on number 3, right? This is the third one or fourth
We're
one?
at least probably on 4. I think this one's metal. I think it's bolted down. I think there's barbed
We
wire
just-
around
can
it.
we
A capacitor to it.
I was just
let
gonna
somebody
say,
drain that bad boy.
let's put 400 volts attached to
Well,
it.
I've got a trail camera. I was going to put a trail camera in the woods and see if I could catch anybody messing with it. But
Well, let's just go ahead, for anybody that's listening, there's a trail camera on that sign,
there's
and you
it.
will be caught.
Smile.
it shoots.
So smile.
It shoots BBs at you when it goes off. So watch out.
All righty. Does anybody else have any questions? You're good to go.
All right.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
Yep, thanks, Eric.
Oh, James. The pressure's on, big man. Come on.
Good to see you all.
Absolutely.
We have public landings operating on page 42 and 40, well, it goes through 44. Okay, so public landings is also an enterprise fund, and there are no enhancements for public landings operating as well. both revenue and expenses. The request was $593,000, which was a 2% increase from the FY '23 budget, so $10,000 increase. If we look at revenue, it decreased from, I'm sorry, the charges for services decreased from $530,000 to $525,000. And then there were some increases in some of the other revenue sources, such as boat and slip fees, Matapeak user fees, and some of the miscellaneous revenue sources.
Some of those numbers are down. Is that, what do you think that's from?
We had a nice COVID bump on the fishing piers.
Yeah,
and,
okay. Yeah, outdoors, that's right, yeah,
and,
okay.
We appreciated that, but we were trying to be realistic. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I think there's a little bit of a correction
Yep.
to take place. We figured we'd budget smart instead of wishful thinking like it was.
We did incorporate the recent fee increases for calendar year '24. I don't know if you were here that evening in February. We were
You were on assignment.
slip
On
rent.
assignment.
You're on assignment
That's true.
Yeah, on assignment.
in the Caribbean.
It's just a modest increase that's incorporated into to the slip fees and permit fee calculations.
Good.
Okay, and then we start with, we can go over the expenses, also $10,000 increase. Salaries and wages increased by $14,000 from $218,000 to $232,000. The majority of that was in regular salaries. Other charges increased by $15,000, which was 11%, from $141,000 to $156,000. And then if you look on page 43, it has all of the different accounts that add up to the other charges. And there was some increases in debt service, and most of the other accounts remain the same.
Who's charging you that much for water and sewer?
We pay it gladly.
Contracted services increased by $17,000. It was 22%, from $77,000 to $94,000. Most of that increase was in the temporary restrooms and the grass cutting. And I think those were increased just based on recent actuals, correct?
New contracts.
Or new contracts,
Yeah.
okay. The benefits increased by $6,000 from $67,000 to $73,000. That was 8%, and that was throughout a variety of accounts there. Supplies and materials went down from $41,800 to $35,800. And if you look on page 44, the decrease was in other charges. Capital outlay decreased, mainly because there was a budget for vehicles and additional equipment in FY '23 that totaled $34,000. That was not included in the FY '24 budget request. That is all we had for public landings operating. Unless there's questions, or James, if you want to go over anything else.
No, we try to be conservative so that there's a surplus at the end.
Okay, and then we can go over the public landings capital projects.
So on page 19 of the capital budget summary, there are 4 total projects for public landings. The total for FY '24 is $510,000, and the total for FY '25 is $100,000, for a total over the next 6 years of $610,000.
Out of the 510, how much of that's grant and how much of that's
All of it except the 150.
the pier improvements?
Right, and that, the reason is the Waterway Improvement Fund, the piers are not voter
Right,
services,
yeah.
so we're looking for.
Which fishing pier improvements are we talking about?
The Matapeak Pier boat, the railing is in poor condition on the weather side, the water side. It's amazing to walk down there and look at the hardware left and right.
Really?
It's impressive. We met with the DNR engineer and got the plans, so, and then Roman Cove deck could use some decking. And
Yes.
so, those are the
And 150 is going to cover both of us? We hope. Okay, that's not.
preliminary estimates.
What about Jackson Creek shoreline?
So there's some concern about maybe some erosion going on there. So what FY '24 would be to evaluate that, and I think I can get grants for all that. There's pretty good, if it's public-owned property for living shoreline kind of work, or if that's what it is, I don't want to get ahead of that. So I'd rather have experts evaluate it, and then they can come up with a number of what it will take. And I'm fairly confident there's grant funders out there.
Little Creek Landing.
Yeah, we have poor drainage in the parking lot, so we'd like to improve that situation. That's 100% grant funded, and it did, and the next two did meet, were part of the DNR budget and then the governor's budget, so, which is about to be approved, I presume, any day now. And so once it's approved, and then they make it official and make an announcement.
Right. The Thompson Creek bulkhead, where, I don't even, where's that at?
It's Cracker Barrel, south of that road, the Cracker Barrel.
Okay.
Thompson Creek Road.
All the abandoned boats are.
Is that where they are? Okay, all right.
There's been a couple out there on mooring piles that have been
Yeah.
a little problematic for us, and I think Commissioner Corcorino has been engaged with these guys.
I saw them down at the Kent Narrows. What's the one that's around the bend there?
Good hands.
Good Hands, that's the one I was.
Actually,
Oh, yeah, that's one in the road, yeah.
We had one pulled in January, and some others have moved on their own accord. I'm not sure where they went, but they're not there.
But it pretty much takes an act of God to move one of those, doesn't it?
It's waters of the state.
Yeah.
And we're
Wow.
not the state.
And what about the project up in, is it Crumpton, Jack? Yeah. How's that going? Where's that in here?
Good news on that, we have a little schedule for you, shared with Todd. Put out an RFP for engineering, got an engineer on board at the last meeting as a desk item, action item.
Yep.
So that engineer will have about 4 months to come up with design, permitting, and bid documents, and then once the permits are in hand and a construction bid is put out.
Perfect.
So
What's this for?
Crumpton, Salt Landing,
Crumpton.
kayak, and.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So we combined the projects to get some economies of scale, but we've made it very clear, and including the winning bidder of the engineering understands that Crumpton is the #1 priority of the two.
Great. Any questions?
One quick question, I didn't mean to catch you off guard. We have the Kent Narrows dredging and Queenstown Creek. We submitted earmarks for those, and we may want to include those in the budget at some point in the out years. I mean, I don't know if we're going to get to
Kent
those.
Narrows dredging is already an FY 20,
6 or 7?
no, prior.
Really?
5?
This is
We
24,
got
so
a- We got
24.
$1 million for that in FY 23.
I think it was 22 or 23.
Yeah.
We can check.
Okay, so
So
is
I
that
think-
going to cover it?
That's a good question.
Well, I just didn't see any
New money.
planning in the out years, so I think we may want to include that so we can lose track of those too.
Okay.
That's all. We can adjust that in the out years.
I pictured it as supplemental to that FY 23, but we'll create whatever the correct accounting of that is.
Sure, yeah. Awesome.
And the CBEC project may be helpful on that, so it may be okay. It's hard to tell when these contractors' prices are gonna be.
Oh, boy. That's the truth.
Yeah, we know, yeah, for sure.
And we probably can get some funding if needed, so.
Well, James, I got to say, ever since I've come here, you've done an outstanding job. I mean, all of our, the marinas, everything you got control of, you're on it, and we never have any headaches there. So thank you very much for your hard work.
I appreciate the compliment. It doesn't always feel that way.
Oh, well.
There's some projects that we really need to get going on that finally are making some traction, so.
Good, yeah. That's all right, as long as
Well,
I'm moving forward. Yeah.
again, your department's one of those where the public is using, and so, again, it gets back to that point where I was trying to make about, during the summer months, where we have a lot of our citizens in outside county people using our landings, and so, it's tough to be under the microscope all the time in the summertime.
Thankfully,
And then the local business owners complaining.
mostly, nice thing that we've done recently is a boater safety project that I'm pretty enthusiastic about, and turning a sad situation into a positive. And we've been working with,
The tide charts?
the Tide Chart Group. And they are, maybe premature, but I think it might go national.
Really?
And we were the first ones to partner with
Awesome.
them.
Very good. There you go.
That's been a rewarding project.
Good.
And, for a lot of good reasons. So.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, James.
I think that concludes everything for Parks, Recreation, Golf Course, Airport, and Public Landings.
Mike, you didn't even get to speak, man. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take two, take three? Just two, all right. Guess we're gonna take a 3-minute recess here.
Okay.
All right. All right, thanks, everybody. Thanks, James. Thanks for the schedule, that's great, perfect.
Hey, we're taking recess.
Any detail there? All right. Well, you guys, make sure you speak up if you have any adjustments or corrections or additions, deletions.
Department of
Moving right
Public
along, we
Works.
have the Department of Public Works up next, so Cole's gonna run through the operations, and we'll go through capital. Karen's gonna cover that, I'll go through. These gentlemen and ladies will answer any questions you have.
Very well.
Or pretend to.
We'll start on page 80 in the binder, which is Department of Public Works total general fund revenue, increased or decreased by 5% from 830,000 to 790,000. And we'll go through each of these departments separately. This is just a summary. And just a note before we get started, again, roads is not included on here because it's no longer part of the general fund. And then when we move to page 81, it's the same sort of summary. This is for the general fund expenses. It's 11% increase from 7,994,000 to 8,858,000. And as we go through each of these, we will go over the enhancements that were included for each department. And then we start with DPW admin on page 82. There's no revenue for DPW admin, only expenses. That's what's on page 82. There were no enhancements requested, and it was an increase, just a $5,000 increase from 601,000 to 606,000. The increase was all on salaries and wages, which increased by 5% to 379,000. All in regular salaries on just a small amount in the health insurance waiver. Benefits actually decreased from 129,000 to 116,000. It was almost 10%, and all of that was in the health insurance expense. There was no change in other charges, it remained the same at 98,000, and just a very small change in supplies and materials up to 12,000.
How many people are in admin? Is it three, okay.
Okay, if we move on to page 83 through 85, we have animal services. On page 83, we have the animal services revenue, which remain the same at 40,000.
Okay, animal services. We have animal control.
Animal
That's
con- yeah,
two
anim-
totally different entities.
It used to be all combined years ago, but we separated it in 2012 or so, thereabouts. So animal control is now part of emergency services under
Correct.
Lord Morris.
Correct.
Animal services is our animal services building down in Queenstown.
We use, that's all that's there.
Yeah, that's,
Okay, all
yeah,
right.
yeah. The control division just does, they respond to complaints and things of that nature.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yep.
But animal services, that's our adoption center, and Kelly runs that now.
Okay, okay.
So when the Animal Control Board issues a fine, where's those dollars on the fine?
Go to-
When it's eventually paid, where's that go?
It is coming through animal services.
Okay.
And that, yeah, I was gonna say that is cited on there.
Okay.
That's all right. So that revenue is on page 83.
Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
And then on pages 84 and 85, we have animal services expenses. The total amount increased by 18% from 1.2 million to 1.4 million. It was 217,000 total. There was one enhancement which was funded, and that was for a medical care technician. And those figures are included in the budget that's presented here. Salaries and wages increased from 625,000 to 619, which was 93,000. It was 15%. The majority of that was in regular salaries, 52,000. And then there were also increases in part-time, overtime, and holiday overtime pay. And that was all based on the actuals that we're seeing in 22 and 23. Supplies and materials increased by 73,000 from 180,000 to 253. And all of these increases were related to overall cost increases. Most of the categories increased. Medical supplies increased by 5,000, animal supplies increased by 36, there was not a budgeted item for custodial supplies, so that was added in this year at 25,000. And also office supplies, has not been a budget for that account previously, so $7,000 was added there as well. The benefits increased by 18,000, which was 10% from 187 to 205,000, and there were increases throughout all of the accounts there.
So, I'm sorry, going back to the medical supplies and animal supplies. So the animal supplies, is that just because they've had literally a 50% increase?
Pretty much, yeah, I mean, it's not only just like food and things along those lines, animal supplies also are, if we need new kennels for, guinea pigs, things like that. I mean, animal supplies is across the board, in terms of even toys or enrichment items.
Okay.
But yeah, that's where that expense is increasing quite a bit, though, is really just strictly through our vendors.
And we don't get people that want to donate that stuff?
We certainly do, but our animals, we do try to feed them, obviously, a consistent diet, and so
Right.
that is coming through Hill Science Diet. And
Okay.
so they have seen a sharp increase this year.
Okay, thank you.
We're still in a catch-up mode too, from transferring out of animal welfare leg or whatever, so
Right.
it's probably our first full budget that we had an idea what stuff really costs.
Gotcha.
Regular and part-time folks, are there?
So I do,
Salary?
for salary, yeah, so we have, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have our full-time adoptions manager. We have a animal care, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 13, including myself would be 14 full-time.
Part-time?
Part-time, I have 2. We have a contractual behaviorist on staff, though, too. That is separate. We have a contractual veterinarian on staff also. That is separate.
How many volunteers do you think you have?
We have over 80 active volunteers right now.
Do you have a volunteer manager?
We do. We have a volunteer and outreach coordinator. She is full-time.
You said there was an enhancement?
There is an enhancement for a medical care technician.
Correct.
Is that what a facilities tech? No. No? Excuse me?
I didn't see it on
No, I don't see-
Okay, so it wasn't on the summary, but it is on, let me see where that is.
Cut that page off.
It's on page 7 in the front of the binder, under the introduction section. And it's the second item that's listed, it's animal services, that was fully funded.
Did you say that was in here, or not?
Yes, so that's already included in the expenses that we just went over.
Alrighty.
Do you want to go over that position now?
It really is going to be an enhancement. We are doing so much more medical care instead of outsourcing that we're actually performing all of these things here at Animal Services now. So just for instance, last year we did 559 surgeries. We're on pace this year to do 744.
And these aren't, I mean, these are
Spay neuter.
procedures that we're doing to.
For our animals that we are adopting out.
Okay.
Yeah, we are
So is there a
also,
fee, so that fee is being transferred to the owners of the dogs that are being adopted out?
we
or-
try to in-source it in terms of that's the adoption fee, basically. Should cover the medical costs of
Okay, yeah,
everything
so
that
that's
we
my
are
question.
doing.
So
Yes.
if we've got, $800 invested in a dog,
We're not gonna get that back.
well,
Not
maybe
all
that's
that.
not an accurate
Not all
number,
that.
Alan. So what are we looking at on an average adoption fee?
It varies, obviously, so a dog is going to be $140, a cat's $60. Anything over the age of 7 that's a senior is actually free, because they are just harder to move.
Sure. Okay.
We must have given you some sort of hard deal then.
Now I know why we looked at it back in 2011.
You
For the
remember what it
12
was?
budget to
We were given
outsource that.
500,000 and here we are.
Expensive operation.
Yes, it is.
Being able to do all these procedures, though, medical-wise, instead of outsourcing, is saving a lot of money, though.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to speak for everybody else, but, you know, the public watches what you do very closely.
Oh, yeah.
Very closely in Queen Anne's County, and it's been smooth sailing.
Yeah.
So-
I will say, though, that at the time, that, a couple times that I've been to the facility, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
And clean and organized and
Everybody does a good job. They really do. And again, that's also the volunteers too. They come in and help out
Yeah.
very much so.
So is there any capital improvements with,
There are, yes.
what page is that on?
Page 16 of the capital budget summary. Were you finished with operating?
We just had one more category, other charges on the bottom of page 84 was an increase of 33,000. And again, that was just multiple accounts, just for increases that were made based on the actuals over the last 2 years. That was everything.
Okay. So there are two projects on page 16 of the capital budget summary. The total for FY '24 is $290,000, and then the total over the next 6 years is $7.9 million. Primarily, $7 million of that is for the animal services building. So I don't know if you want to give a brief overview of that.
Yeah, the building that we are currently in, quite honestly, it's not designed to hold the amount of animals that we have, and the functionality of it just doesn't work. You're nodding your head. Yeah, it just doesn't work.
firsthand.
It's a difficult flow. I mean, even just for, you know, sanitary purposes. So we are looking to, we really can't revamp what we have. We need to build a new building. It's just that simple. Somewhere, correct. And hopefully we're working on, you know, trying to.
Can an addition be put on in the cornfield? Which we
We're
don't.
talking to that landowner as a possible site.
Mr. Dudley?
Yes,
As a possible site for the new building.
that's what we're looking at, right?
Okay.
But land is land.
Well, you know, the fire department's gonna back up to there. So he is willing to talk.
We're talking, we're trying to talk to him.
So the,
How many?
go ahead, no, go ahead.
No,
Like I said, it's totally different, so.
how many acres would you need? Let's say he was willing to talk.
We were going to be asking for somewhere around 7. The reason is because we want to be able to have a buffer, in a sense, dog trails, things like that, for the volunteers who do come and walk these animals, have them be able to walk in a safe place that's not necessarily butting right up to a main road.
If he offered 2 or 3, would that be acceptable?
It's half of what they need.
Yeah, we'd look at it. I mean, it depends on what we do with the existing facility. But her biggest fear is that if they do develop that property, they'll lose that paper right away, right along Route 50 as a service road, and they have nowhere to go. Or 301.
Depends if they get sewer and water.
So how does like you said, the new firehouse, what's that do to all those animals that are in there when the sirens and then all that noise?
You'll hear them howl. I mean, quite honestly, they'll
But
be in tune.
do they calm back down, or is
They
it-
will be in tune.
You don't do that now, right? I mean,
They can
it's
hear it.
only-
I hear
it's
it.
only a quarter mile.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't think that it's gonna affect it that much, versus if something else is being developed next door, we wouldn't know what that would be.
Right.
And then the construction of that would actually probably give more anxiety than anything else, so.
What is the capital equipment?
That was,
At 300,
290,000.
290,000.
right.
That was the FY '24 request?
It's on page
Is that new,
141.
I think, did she said new cages? No, that would,
So so for equipment, we were looking at 60,000 for upgrading some more cat condos. And then we were looking at equipment also for new cameras in the facility, as well as door access keys. We do not have any of that. And our camera placement is quite honestly, it's not good. It's very difficult to see around the building, and when you do have staff working with animals, that is a safety concern, for sure. And then we were asking for another storage shed, and this, when I say storage shed, this is gonna be a larger structure for our behaviors to be able to do training classes. What we really do want to start to offer is that with every adoption, you get to meet with our behaviorists firsthand and have them one-on-one, and, you know, in the hopes that these animals wouldn't be returned.
Well, and that's where I was just gonna ask, probably, people get home and they go, I think I've made a mistake.
They're overwhelmed.
And how many, so if, let's say we adopt 30 out in a month, how many actually come back?
Believe it or not, we've changed some of the things of how we're doing this now. So we used to do a lot of, you would just adopt out the same day. We're doing more foster to adopts now.
Oh,
So
okay.
everybody's able to kind of go home and get a feel for how it's going to work for them. And that's actually been very successful. It seems like it takes the pressure off of the adopters.
Very good.
And you want to talk about the yard area as well?
So the yard, the 150,000 that we did put on here was really just our best guesstimate. At the time, speaking with a contractor who was going to come out to put in artificial turf for all 3 yards, replace the fencing, and just do some better drainage overall for these yards. I will say that that figure on this paper is now inaccurate, as we did get a more solid estimate, and that figure is quite low to what we were looking to do. What we have now in our yards is gravel, and we have fencing that's, quite honestly, it's being held together by zip ties. And again, this is obviously a big safety concern. We have animals that have actually gotten their heads stuck in these fences trying to get at one another. So something has got to be done with these yards and with these fences.
Would you consider that a priority?
100%.
Okay.
More than the surround sound for the dog and cat areas?
Well,
What do they listen to? I'm curious.
I'll be honest, there's actually, believe it or not, so there's actually a channel, and it's called Through Dog's Ears, and it's called Through Cat's Ears. And we actually do play it right now. We do play it with smaller speakers like you would have in your house that you can connect your phone to. Believe it or not, there were studies, you're laughing. Studies began in this actually back in 2008 at some universities to see if it lowered anxiety levels, lowered the heart rate of animals in shelters and in stressful situations. And this study has actually proven that classical music,
That's what I want to know. What was
despite my trying to convince them they do not want rock, they just don't listen to that. But classical music is actually very soothing to them. And these studies do show that it is helping with anxiety.
Wow.
And believe it or not, all of the newer shelters and everything, if you're building from the ground up again, surround sound is just a part of it now.
Well, how big
Hey,
is
Lee, I might have some classical music at home in my house. Just
You're
to
gonna come and
control
share it with
my
us.
anxiety. Can we have classical music played while we're doing these budget hearings to reduce the anxiety?
Through commissioners' ears instead of through dogs' ears.
So how big is a $60,000 cat condo?
So that's actually for 10.
For what?
That would be for 10. So it
cats?
actually would hold 20 cats.
Just like you built.
We
okay,
actually just,
okay.
I just actually had this approved, I want to say I was here with you guys in October. So actually the same model, same
Right.
builds. It's really just to replace some of the ones that are just
Yeah.
outdated, warped, and, not as functional.
Okay.
I'll say Kent County just built a brand-new animal services facility. I think a lot of these folks went up on a tour, if you ever want to go look at a brand-new place. And we would also look at potentially combining animal control. Again, we'd evaluate that with animal services, potentially as a future initiative.
Put them under
And
DPW.
Alan would be glad to give it to DES.
That would be part of the animal group, yeah.
We'll tell you what, we'll let you pick who you want to work with.
Sure. We have a great relationship with them, though. We do work very closely with them either way.
So,
All right.
all right. Any other questions for Kelly?
We love our animals.
Services? Yes, we do. All right.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Okay, moving on page A6, we have engineering revenue. And there was no change. The engineering revenue budget remained the same at $40,000. Pages 87 and 88, we have engineering expense. The total expense increased by 11,000, or 11%, which was 124,000, from 1,085,000 to 1.2 million. There was one enhancement for a civil engineer, and that was funded for half of the year, and that is included in these figures. Salaries and wages increased from 740,000 to 796,000, which was 8%, a $56,000 increase, and the majority of that was in regular salaries. Benefits increased by 62,000 from 244 to 306, and all of that was in health insurance, pension, and a small portion in the other accounts. Contracted services was a $5,000 increase, which was 8%, and that was throughout the several accounts listed there for contracted services. Supplies and materials, just a very minimal increase, and that was only 1% there. Other charges increased by 2%, again, just a minimal increase for other charges. And on page 88, the total, again, is 1.2 million for engineering. And we have the enhancement if we want to go over that, and also capital projects to go over as well.
Enhancements first.
Okay, so we have the civil engineer. Do you want to explain?
Yep, that's right. So the engineering division is primarily tasked with the two elements. One, we do development review for roads, stormwater management, floodplain, and coordinate on the sanitary and delivering those comments to plan and zoning. The other half, and it's really more than half of what we do, is we maintain all the county facilities and the county's capital improvement program for those facilities. So that's what most of our staff engineers are doing. Right now at this moment, I'm knock on wood, I'm pleased to say that we're feeling pretty good and that have several new employees, and there's that learning curve and it takes some time, but generally we find at this particular moment we have in the fortunate position of having a little bit more funding and needs than we do the staff to get it done. And over the last few years, we've lost staff to a variety of things, either changes in life or other job opportunities, and HR and Todd, everybody's been very good with coming up with ideas and ways to attract and retain new talent. The reason why I'm requesting this position, we're have just enough staff to really kind of get the projects done now, and my fear is always, when's the next person going to leave? And I have a real hard time, doing that training, and we do it. But the big fear is the amount of time it takes to find someone good, and then to bring them in and to have them learn not only the institutional knowledge, but also if we get someone new out of college, which is really the type of thing we're looking for, it takes time, years to get up to speed. So the primary purpose of this request is having a position that not necessarily that I would fill it tomorrow, but it's just a few months ago.
If we find somebody, we want to be able to hire them.
Yep, that's right.
The other thing we want to do is build a bench because, well, for me personally, I'm doing my exit strategy right now, so there's going to be, we've got to build up some people, get them experience, so to backfill.
Mm-hmm. And we've talked about that for years.
It's a succession planning initiative, and as Lee mentioned, and Alan too, I mean, finding qualified candidates for engineering, or any candidates, has been the most difficult position for us to fill. It really has been. It's been
Remember we said the deputy directors, and that was that role.
Is that funded in your budget? Was that request?
Yeah. Well, I put it in for 50% of the year, but I mean, if we find somebody,
Right, that's what you're saying. So you got looking for somebody. If somebody comes along, you snatch them. If they don't come along, you're still looking. And
I still have an engineering vacancy of sanitary that needs to be filled. I might poach from him.
That's what I do.
Okay. Rob Peter to pay Paul.
Yep. All right. Capital.
So on page 15 of the capital budget summary, the total FY24 request for admin and general services was $4.6 million. The total over the next 6 years is $22.4 million. And the two largest projects are the historic courthouse at $9 million and the Cloverfield's flood mitigation at $3.4 million.
So out of this 4.6, is any of this grant, or is this all?
It is, there was 450,000 for the Sudlersville Senior Center that's
Okay.
under grants,
Yep.
and then half of the Bloomfield Manor House is grant funded, so 17,500.
So this year's $1 million to the courthouse to do what?
This year we'll be focusing on replacements of the roof and doing some interior renovation work with the electrical and things that we can get done while we are working on completing the engineering drawings for the renovation plan.
And so in 3 years, we're gonna spend $9 million on that courthouse. What other plans are there, and what does that involve? $5.5 million in the next cycle? What are we doing, interior? or-
Oh, entire, well, second floor we're keeping relatively as it is, but we have to add an elevator.
Right.
Which is a big ticket item.
Right.
We're gonna move the register of wills into the first floor, so that all has to be revamped to some large degree. And then the basement is gonna be largely flex space, office space, but all the mechanical equipment in there is from 1966. So it's a huge undertaking what we gotta do.
So majority, okay, well,
That also serves to free up space, additional space up here in the Liberty Building if
Right.
we move the Register of Wills, Orphans Court functions over to the historic courthouse. We also have the 911 backup center
In the
in the
basement.
lower level courthouse in the basement. And then we're also gonna have a big, large conference room down there that we hope utilize for the FEC meetings. They meet monthly, and they give them an office space down there in a big meeting hall in that lower level of the courthouse. Oh, the old
We trying to empty this building?
Well, we have we're full. I mean, this building has got we're jammed in here. There's no really room for any expansion for staff, on the first floor.
okay. Comments, questions?
Do we have
No?
other
25 is a big year.
Yes, it is.
60 million just
Yeah.
in capital.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
A little bond market.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's part of this process too.
Absolutely,
Some of those
yeah.
things can be pushed out, some.
No, yeah, I get it. I mean, we talked about this last time, it's much easier on budgeting when the numbers stay relatively,
Yeah,
Ease it out.
that's a
Yeah.
challenge, and
Yeah.
we will continue to work on that to sort of, hopefully,
oh, it's good. I mean,
generalize that, but we also want to have a good, solid, realistic plan of what we need to plan for over the 6-year period. And I got to say that we'll get into this at the next budget workshop with our Board of Education folks, but they've got really not a lot of anything in the out years, and we know there's going to be expenses there, so we got to build some budgetary authority out there, at least plan for it in the capital plan, because we know there's always going to be some work that's needed to be done at the schools. Maybe some of you recall there was in 2016, a pretty comprehensive assessment done of all their facilities, and I'm not even sure that, the new superintendent may not be fully aware of that, but it's got it probably needs to be revised and updated, but it's got some pretty big numbers in it, for the out years. So we'll be looking at that a little more comprehensively as this process goes forward.
And construction prices are just going through.
I know.
I was always pushing that we'd be in a recession by now, but we ain't nowhere near a recession, construction wise, it's just on fire.
Very good.
All right?
No other questions?
So does that mean that our numbers, because are inflated, meaning not our numbers, but just because of inflation, the numbers across the board are inflated 20% to 30%?
Yeah, I
They're
mean,
pushing it out.
we always shoot high, we don't want to ask for more money, but routinely we have to ask for more money.
Yeah, it's been a recent trend over the past couple of years. A lot of the Board of Education projects are coming in way higher than the original budget, and we've seen that with some of our larger capital projects as well, primarily, materials and, of course, labor. I mean, labor costs are high, right, higher. I mean, the Consumer Price Index is going up 9% this past year. So we're seeing that, we're feeling that.
But it never comes back down.
Labor, probably not.
Yeah.
Materials may stabilize,
Yeah,
but it's, I think it's here for the foreseeable future, for certain.
So Centerville Middle is a double 10, FY 26, 27, 10 million.
I think Centerville Middle is under the Board of Education, right?
Yeah, it's under Board of Education. Yeah, we can cover that a little more when we get to Board of Education next work session. That's
Yep.
that's one
Sweet.
of their requests. That middle school, we toured that last year. Some of the
Yeah.
commissioners toured that last year, and that's their next school they want to put on, if you want to say, the docket for reconstruction or a new school. And, we're still looking at those options. We have the old high school down here we have to figure out something to do with as well.
That clinking noise, clink, 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 clink.
That's right.
As the dozer gets closer. Yeah. All right,
Yep, all right.
on to general services.
General
Services,
services.
okay.
Starts on page 89. And we start with general services revenue. There was no change from last year. The budget remained the same at 35,000. General services expenses is on pages 90 and 91. The total budget changed by 15%, increased 444,000 from 2.9 million to 3,370,000. There was one enhancement. It was a facilities technician, and that was fully funded in the county administrator's budget, and those figures are included. So we started at the top of page 90 with other charges. It was a 14% increase from 930,000 to 1,061,000. And that was 131,000 total. 100,000 of that increase was in electricity based on the increase in utility supply cost.
Really? Wow. Guess those panels aren't helping out that much, are they?
No.
Wow.
Well, the good news is, the supply has gone up to the point where we weren't in the red anymore, so we were on supply. Now, distribution saved us, because for whatever reason, we don't pay distribution on those panels, but for a while, we were in the red supply-wise with the big array, but now we're back in the black. But they have saved us well over $1 million.
Wow.
Good.
We also see that propane gas increased and heat increased by 20,000. That increase was just based on actuals, which are showing a 20% increase from FY '23. Then we go down to salaries and wages. It was a 10% increase, which was 79,000 from 783 to 862,000. And that was split between a variety of accounts. Regular salaries increased by 38,000, and then we also had increases in overtime and part-time and standby pay based on actuals over the last 2 years. Contracted services was increase of 150,000 from 679 to 829. There was a variety of accounts that increased here. Repairs increased by 15,000. Grass cutting had an increase of 75,000. That was based on actuals. If you look at FY '22, you'll see it was more than double what was the original budget for '23.
We took over housing, grass cutting.
Uh-huh.
There was an increase in consultant expense, again, to align with the '22 actuals, and also the expected for '23. Snow removal was not included in last year's budget, and although that cost varies, we did go ahead and put in 25,000 for FY '24 budget as an estimate.
That pest control, is that the mosquito program, or, no? That's just
Bugs and stuff.
just buildings and stuff around here?
And moving on to page 91, we have benefits at the top, which increased by 52,000 from 377 to 428,000. And that was, the majority of that was in the health insurance account. We had supplies and materials increased by 35,000 from 153 to 188. And the majority of that was in materials, and it was based on actuals. the 30,000 that was budgeted was closer to the FY '22 actual of 28,000. There was no capital outlay requested, and the total budget was 3.3 million. We want to go over the enhancement first. That was the facilities technician one.
What page?
Yep. That's the one that's on your,
Yeah.
the one she gave
Oh, the
us.
one, the desk item?
Yep.
Yeah, it's on the desk, yeah. It's in your binder too. This is just a summary sheet of that particular page.
Right. So, what page in the binder? 7?
I don't know, this doesn't have.
Which one is it?
I think it's starts
It's
on
8,
7.
page 8.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, on eight. Yeah.
Yep.
Facilities technician one.
Yep.
So what does a facilities technician one do?
Repairs.
Excuse me?
Repairs in the buildings,
Oh, okay.
a
All
little
right.
bit of HVAC.
You're
Electrical, plumbing,
working under Paul's
carpentry,
leadership.
painting.
Paul's leadership.
What they can do
All the
about,
above.
all the above.
right, what they can do about us having to hire outside contractor.
Okay.
Someone's always too hot or too cold, especially at this time of year. So, facilities techs take care of those problems
That's right.
for us. Yeah. Yeah, we got some painting in here to do as well.
Oh, believe me.
And we're waiting for them to do the roof first.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotta secure the source first, right? Yeah.
Well, that's funded, okay.
Then call us.
There's on page 103, the actual request, and it's also on the screen for that position.
Okay.
Capital was already included in the admin.
Okay,
general
so we already went
services.
over the capital.
The facilities tech is largely a similar story to the engineer. It does tend to be one of our more difficult positions to fill. We'd had a vacancy for many years, a hard time getting, so many of them were just attracted to the higher paying, private sector positions. And of the 3 that we have, I'm sure you've probably met them, Jeremy and Dave and Andy, they aren't getting any younger, so we'd
I
like
would
to.
like to send them in pairs too, so 3 doesn't work for us.
Mm-hmm. Very well.
Buildings fall under your purview.
There are about 40 facilities which comprise about 50 different buildings. That doesn't include Board of Ed, just county buildings. I believe it's about 49 buildings and I think what we'll call about maybe 39 facilities. So for example, Public Works is a facility with,
Multiple buildings.
correct.
Okay.
Range in age from 230-some years old to
Not a
about
technician.
2 years old.
Excuse me?
Not the technician.
Not the technicians, the facilities.
The facilities, yeah.
Can we get a couple more years out of him?
He's a little bit crusty in the corner. All right.
The schoolhouse across in front of the school.
What's that?
The school, with the one-room schoolhouse on.
That's my house.
Not ours. Not sure who
Which
who
one?
does own that.
There's a one-room schoolhouse in
Hope
front
Road,
of
Hope.
in front of the high school.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
it's a historic site.
It's on Board of Ed property,
Yeah,
so I
it's
guess.
a historic site.
Don't worry, it'll be our problem one day.
Hey, don't,
Did I just say that?
remember Chesapeake College, what sits on the outside road, those little Chinese or things rotting apart and, oh, yeah.
We took care of that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, great.
It's go on.
Okay, all right. All right, moving on.
Okay.
Property management?
Page 92 and 93 is property management. This does include property management division, also weed control and mosquito control. The revenue on page 92 was an increase of 15,000 from 170 to 185. And that increase was throughout several accounts here. So it was a 9% increase. And on page 93, we have the expenses for property management, which actually decreased from 375,000 to 360,000. There was no enhancements requested. Several of the categories did increase, which was then offset by a decrease in capital outlay. Salaries and wages increased by 7,000 in regular salaries. Supplies and materials increased by 9,000 throughout several of the accounts. Benefits increased slightly by $3,300. It was a 6% increase. Capital outlay decreased by $40,000. There was equipment that was budgeted last year that was not requested this year. Other charges, it was just a slight decrease of $500 there in the communications expense. And then there was an increase of $5,000 in contracted services, which was all for land appraisals. So in total, it was a 4% decrease for property management. So no enhancements and no capital, right?
There is actually two projects
Okay.
under capital. The total for FY '24 is $475,000, and the total over the next 6 years is $2 million. The 175, sorry, 15 of the capital budget.
Very bottom of 15.
So the 175 in FY '24 is for a public health and safety facility feasibility study. And then the public safety property acquisition is $300,000 over the next 6 years.
So, in layman's terms, what are those projects? What exactly does that entail?
The health and safety is to look at the sheriff's facility and the health department to figure out what's best to do within, either move one to a new building and tear down an old building or
Okay.
something. Try to give us a blueprint on how to move forward with those two
Okay.
facilities.
Yeah, the sheriff's facility is probably the, you know, it was never designed as an office.
Right.
It was a warehouse.
Right.
It's in pretty poor condition. Between that one and the animal services shelter, those are probably the two worst facilities we have in the inventory, I would say. I mean, I'm not
So that-
speaking for these guys, but this is an evaluation to figure out, you know, look at options for,
Will they take into consideration the property that, I mean, I imagine this will have to go out for bid, and then it won't be let for another 3 or 4 months at the earliest. Hopefully by then we'll have that land, and that'll play into this study.
it certainly could.
It'd be a component, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm just saying, if we do the
Yeah.
study now and we get the land, then it kind of,
Now, this won't happen until July, so we
Okay.
should know
Yeah.
something.
okay, all right.
The land you're talking about is land in Flat Road.
Excuse me?
Yeah,
What land?
up on the eastern
The
pre-release.
pre-release?
Facility?
Flatiron Road,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's roughly 80 acres up there.
Right.
So
So you're thinking maybe the sheriff's department could go up there?
yes,
it's
yes.
potential.
Possibility, possibility. And the property acquisition, what is that one?
I added that one in.
Okay,
So
good.
there are several ongoing discussions about relocating some of our emergency services crews at new firehouses. So we put some money in here
Station
for
two.
potentially acquisition or
Paramedic 200.
stipends back to those companies for allowing our units to.
One-time
leave us.
fees, or these?
It could, we don't really have any
Okay.
concrete proposals yet, but it could be a one-time fee, it could be an annual fee, or we could acquire property over a number of years and use that facility as another county facility. So it's kind of a placeholder. We're not sure what we're going to do exactly at this point in time, but there are, as you know, Station 2 and
Two and
Station
three.
3 are moving through the process to build new facilities
Right.
currently. And I think
We
one's
can
coming
run
through.
Paramedic 200 out of
So.
Station Gracie build a new house.
Plus the one at Kent Arrows is.
Yeah, station,
it's just
that's
too
200, right?
That's
It's
200.
200, it's in the floodplain. Yeah, so, yeah, that would give us some funding there to,
And they were
Carry
very,
that forward.
Gracieville was very receptive of, in the process of building the new firehouse, accommodate paramedic 200.
So is Queenstown.
Good. All right, thank you. All right, on to roads.
Okay. Road starts on page 94 with roads revenue, now a completely separate fund. That's why we're showing the increase from the '23 budget of 1.3 million to 6.2 million, because it's a separate fund. It has to be balanced and fully budgeted. So you see the transfers in, which is from the general fund, that's 4.6 million. And then this state shared taxes, which is the highway user tax of 1.5 million.
Was that programmed? Was that a surprise?
the HUR, yeah, that was programmed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep. It's gonna go up the next maybe 2 more years, and then it's gonna,
Yeah.
we'll be back at it again. Back at the General Assembly, asking, continue that. Of course, by then, we'll have electric cars everywhere anyway, so it
Yeah.
won't matter, right?
And cat condos.
Page 95 and 96, we have roads expenses, which increased from $5,953,000 up to $6,213,000, which was a 4% increase, $259,000. There was one enhancement for roads. It was a roads operator 1 position, and that's fully funded and included in these figures. And this roads, the expenses include all divisions, admin, shop, maintenance, and other public roads. So at the top of page 95, we have salary and wages. It was 3% increase from $2,977,000 to $3,069,000. And the majority of that was in regular salaries. Then we have benefits, which actually decreased by 2%, $26,000 from $1,531,000 to $1,505,000, all in the health insurance category. Supplies and materials, it was a 16% increase from $1,198,000 to $1,388,000. And the majority of that was in shop and automotive supplies, which it was a $175,000 increase based on cost. If you see the FY22 column, it shows the cost at $524,000. So the budget was increased in '24 to align closer to the actuals. There were some other increases, miscellaneous throughout the other categories for supplies and materials on pages 95. And then if we move over to page 96, other charges, there was no change. It remained the same at $116,000. Capital outlay remained the same at $100,000. Just a $2,500 increase for contracted services, which was in consultants. So we had the one enhancement for the roads operator, and then we also have some capital that we can go over. So the enhancement is on the summary sheet that we handed out. Are there any questions on that, or do we want to go over any more information?
Parking lot overlay, I guess that's Queen Anne's High School for the 600,000? Or is this what we're doing?
Where are we at?
We did,
Capital.
Yeah.
That's on capital. On page 19 is the roads capital. It was $6.6 million for FY24. And the parking lot overlays does include $555,000 for phase 2 at the high school.
Okay.
yeah, and I believe that is under contract. We want to get that started. We moved that over to the roads division.
And
so
I,
that
you know,
we can
and this is a perfect example of what we did years ago with the asphalt overlays. They're running between 2.4 and 2.6 a year. So, I mean, you know, we knew every year that coming in, that's what we were gonna put in there, so.
Page 19.
The Thompson Creek Connector, huh?
Thompson Creek Connector is fully grant funded. So that 1.8 million is grant funded.
We plugged it in as a grant project for now, because we did request that earmark.
Right, but we don't know that we got that yet.
We don't,
Right,
but we do
okay.
want to plan for it here in the capital
But
plan.
we think that whole shebang's gonna be $9 million?
That's what the estimate is currently. We're still looking at that, but it's expensive
I gotta get back into that.
sections. Yeah.
And the other grant funding project under roads was, Nichols Manor, which was $200,000, but $160,000 of that is grant funded.
And Little Kidwell's the extension that goes into the YMCA.
Yes.
That's more like it, too.
That's to be a full road.
That's not,
That's additional money.
that's additional money that we need.
You could let me enjoy that for a little bit, you just jumped right on me, man.
Margie? Everything, you're gonna see a couple of projects at the meeting on the 11th, two of which, two projects. The Heritage Center parking lot and this Kidwell Extension parking lot where we need additional funds to complete them.
Maybe not Kidwell.
Maybe not Kidwell? Oh, good. I hadn't heard that. That's good. Bids came in today, right?
How much do we have now, currently? How much for a little kid well currently?
I'm not sure. I can get back to you.
What bridges do we maintain?
Which ones?
It says bridge maintenance, 600,000.
Yeah, we maintain, it used to be 39, but we gave.
Really?
Well, but we gave a lot, there's a lot of them on line bridges, Carolinas, and we split them up.
Okay.
And we don't do number 10 anymore either. We give that to Kent County. I think it's like 25.
Really?
Up, almost all up county. Well, you get the two at Prospect Bay, but
They're not bridges, really. Well, they are, but,
they're in the inventory.
yeah.
So we own those? We own the roads in Prospect Bay?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, I thought they were private.
Yes, we do.
But most of the bridges are up county.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 20 years ago, we replaced all of them.
Because I did that before I went to sanitary.
Right, and so they're all coming back around and they get inspected every couple of years, and there's little things you gotta just, guardrails and repairs and.
Yeah, I mean, they're not like structurally unsound, but a lot of guardrail work needs to be done and stuff like that.
Okay. Solid waste it is.
Solid waste.
Oh, this is your daddy right here.
Yep.
Solid waste. Come on.
Very funny.
Page 97, we can start with solid waste revenue. The budget actually decreased from 545,000 in revenue to 490. And I think some of that was based on actuals, what we were expecting.
Margin, I guess, from the recycling market kind of tailed off.
Well, we're selling books like we thought we would either.
Ticket books are coming down too, sales.
Wonder where they're taking it.
A lot of people are getting the, prescription curbside pickup service,
yeah.
That they could,
Guilty. I went to it. And that's pretty bad, because I live right around the corner from it.
Yeah.
You get curbside pickup, really?
No, we still buy a book, because there's inevitably stuff that she has to get rid of.
Right.
I bought
No, she has to
a
get
book
rid of.
when I moved here, and I think I only used 3 tickets,
Yeah.
because it all just goes to work with me.
No, they're still good. They
Yeah?
don't expire.
Oh, believe me, yeah.
You didn't give them to me.
No.
On pages 98 and 99, we have solid waste expenses, which was a 5% increase from 1,806,000 to 1,890,000. There were no enhancements for solid waste, and this does include their 4 divisions: admin, recycling, site, and transfer. Solid waste, the salaries and wages increased by 5% from 652 to 683. That was 30,000, and that was throughout the categories, regular salaries, part-time, and overtime. There's a slight decrease in other charges. It was less than 1%. Benefits, there was a 4% increase, which was 10,000 from 248,000 to 258, and all of that was in health insurance. Contracted services increased by 43,000 from 226 to 269, and all of that was in other cost, which was the increase in recycling cost.
MES pulls back. MES used to fund more stuff than they do.
They do what? I'm sorry.
MES used to fund more of these events, or these costs than they do anymore. The vast majority of that's tub grinding brush, which they used to do, which now we have to do.
When that tornado hit, we got I know we were grinding in the daylight. We had a tub grinder up there.
I remember the tornado, I don't remember.
The tub grinder up there for all the trees and everything that was coming in there. Who paid for all that? The state?
We actually got some grant money for some of that, but we paid for a lot of that too.
Did we?
We had some money in the budget.
do something with it.
You have to do
Oh,
something,
yeah.
It was a lot of material, for sure. There was some FEMA reimbursement for that,
Yeah, it was.
for those expenses.
At the bottom of 98, supplies and materials, there was no change. The budget remained the same at 211,000. And then at 99, it's just the summary. The increase again was from 1,806,000 to 1,890,000. And no enhancements. There are some capital projects.
Yes. So the capital projects are page 17 of the capital budget summary. The FY '24 amount is $590,000, and the total over the next 6 years is $2.4 million. The 3 projects are transfer station maintenance, and then there's 2 capital equipment projects, one for heavy and construction equipment, and another project for small and non-motorized.
And these are the same capital project requests that we see in solid waste
Every year.
Year after
every year.
Yes.
Containers, compactors, roll-offs.
And as part of this process, Karen and I, we did go over any available balances in projects. With the departments, I know with roads, we were able to decrease their request for some of their equipment based on what they had, and we also did the same for solid waste. So those have already been reflected in the budget. Okay, so I think that is everything except for sanitary. So we can go over sanitary now. And that starts on page 106 in the binder with sanitary wastewater.
And just to reiterate, I know, we all know that, but sanitary is completely a enterprise fund, so the user rates pay for the services they provide to their customers in the sanitary district, so this is really not a general funded account.
It only went up 2%, so I think we're good.
Are we gonna go up 2.5% revenue for rates?
That's right, we took a pass last year, didn't we?
Who did that? Well, just saying your budget is a 2% increase.
Well, I want to thank my fellow commissioners for that, since I'm the only one that's actually on county services. So maybe I should recuse myself. Because you know how I'm going to vote, Alan.
Well, just don't call with a complaint.
Nope.
You're on a blacklist.
Wow.
We do have other sanitary funds if we want to go over them, and they all have very minimal increases. We have sanitary water, we have the ski funds, Sudlersville. Everything was either remained constant or it was a minimal change.
What about the contracted services?
What about, sorry?
That went from 415 to 614.
What page are you on there?
Okay, so that's under
111.
water, and that, that's for the advanced metering. So that was an increase
okay.
of $107,000 for the metering program.
I think it was like 95, but we also, the other big thing is the water tower maintenance, so those two are the big ones.
Well, what are you doing to the water tower?
We pay somebody every year to maintain them, paint them, clean them.
Every year?
They don't, we pay them every year, they don't paint them every year, but we pay them every year.
Oh, okay. It's like an insurance policy, so when it's time to get painted, they get up there and, okay.
Exactly.
Wow.
It was also on page 112 underwater, there was an increase of $50,000 in electricity, and again, that was increasing energy cost. Capital outlay decreased for water based on the request. There was a request that was higher last year, so we brought that down based on this year's request.
Well, I gotta say that, you know, the Southern Ken Island sewer project is just running, just humming along. I mean, we can remember the days of sitting in the auditorium with lasers shot at us and everything else to 1 year into the you know, the construction of this, that people calling going, when can I get mine? When can I get mine? So I think it's been a great project. I think that your team and Coal Ventures done an outstanding job. I mean, anybody here get a call in the last year? I mean, it just, nothing, so.
Silence is
the
one
golden.
call is when you're gonna hook me up, when you're
Yeah,
gonna hook me up,
yeah.
but.
Well, there's been complaints about the growth.
Well, yeah, I mean, with the infill, correct. But, you know, I mean, was part of the deal with the state, and it's all moving forward, so, you know. And then Sudlersville the same way, so why don't you give us a little recap of how that's going?
which aspect?
Well, their sewage treatment plant in the billing and Barclay, how,
Barclay's moving ahead. I mean, we've got the bids in, as you know. We've got 90 days, so we've got to get, MDE is funding most of it, but USDA is funding a portion of it, and they're a much bigger.
they in the butt.
Yeah. So we've got to get both of them to approve our bids by May 25th.
How did the bids come in as far as what you thought?
Good, pretty much right on estimate. We were happy. And there's a local contractor, and we had a good interest. I think we had 6 bids.
Oh, nice.
So what's the duration of that project? How long is it?
A year.
A year?
A little bit more.
So when that's done, how much capacity-wise at Sothersville, from what they're flowing now to, with Barclay, is it,
I'm thinking 15,000.
is what
Maybe a
they're
little
flowing
bit
now, or what they're 15
They're
more?
flowing 67 now.
Okay.
And Barclay probably had maybe 15 to it.
Good.
That still gives them 100 some thousand to grow if they desire. From the outskirts, or the 3 miles, sure.
That's 3 miles, yeah.
Depends on where you want to start to measure. The denied access portion is about 3 miles, which is the town limits of Barclay to the town limits of Somerset.
And is that force main or vacuum? Force main? All right.
I'm looking forward to getting it over. That was harder than Southern Canal, believe me.
Really?
Really? From an approval standpoint?
Just everything.
Everything.
Spend more time on that than.
That will be a legacy of yours.
Yeah, as we say, the easy part's the construction, so that's, the planning and the engineering and, dealing with the various municipalities has been challenging, but we're almost there.
Municipalities weren't a problem, but all the other aspects were.
Well, while we're on that, Alan, what are you hearing about the Millington to replace the Queen Anne?
Not much. I heard every once in a while you hear something. There's a lot of moving parts in that one. I don't believe Somersville has the capacity currently, and I really am hesitant to believe that MDE would allow them to expand, because they're dumping into the Red Line branch, which is a ditch about from that ditch to there, so it's not, I don't know, I'm not sure how MDE would view that.
But Millington doesn't have the ability to build a $60 million plant either.
Well, nobody does,
Saying so. And that other plant where they're using right now is probably not the best sewer plant in the state of Maryland, so.
Yeah, and it's right on the banks of the river, has issues, but
A little below sea level.
I prefer it stay their problem personally.
Right. All right.
We also had some sanitary capital projects. Do you want to go over on
Sure.
page 20?
Yep, page 20 of the capital budget summary. The total sewer for FY '24 was 5.8 million. The total over the next 6 years is 23 million. For total water, FY '24 is 4.7 million, and the total over the next 6 years is 12.6 million.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, the majority of the sewer projects are for the ski, phases 2, 3, and 4. I don't know if you guys wanna touch on any projects in particular, or?
Well, the meter replacement, has that started yet?
They've done their inventory, yeah. We've had thanks to Jimmy Carter, when we went into the water meter business, we put all our meters in cubic meters, which confuses people right off the get-go, cubic meter. So we had this long tortured debate whether we should switch to gallons or not. And we decided not to, because it's gonna be difficult enough just to get it done without switching volumes. And a large part of it is we have to rely on Jeff heavily to do that, and he's got 1,000 better things to do. And we have to rely on Munis, who's got a terrible reputation for helping out too. So we just said,
What does everybody else normally do? Do they do gallons?
sure, around here, sure. Some did cubic feet, but gallons obviously makes a lot of sense. And you get into a lot of arguments with people, like, I was only here for 2 days, that whole quarter, and I didn't use 200 gallons. Well, no, if you used a half a gallon and it clicked, 1 cubic meter is 262 gallons. It's just the luck of the draw that you're right there and you flushed that toilet one time too many. And
So that, I never knew that.
Threw you
So
to the
that
next
kind of
category.
Right, that kind of explains why some people, I can't believe I didn't use any water. This year I used water, or this month I used water, and I
the other
didn't
complaint
get that click.
especially if you're live alone or two people and set in their ways, they'll get the same usage every quarter, and then you say, there's just no way. Well, it's not really the same usage every quarter, it's within 262 gallons every quarter, so.
Wow.
And the cost to bring it, regardless of, the cost to bring it there, it stays consistent whether you use the water or not. And that's what I try to explain.
Our rates are, it's hard to believe, when we first went to the sanitary district, their rates were sky high, but all the jurisdictions, all the towns are higher than we are. Now.
Wow. I see, we haven't, have we put the Chester, my water main out yet? It's on the street?
On the street,
When does it due?
May 1st.
Christine, I don't see a tower on here. I figured that would have been.
Well, we had a placeholder for a tower.
Yeah, you do. It's on here. It's the next two
Arrows
cycles.
Tower,
Yeah.
FY '28.
Very good.
That answers my question.
So can Island System asked for an increase per day?
I'm sorry, what?
Can Island, you asked for an increase in, was it?
The rates, you mean?
Yeah.
2.5%? Routinely, until last year, we've always gone up 2.5% a year. Just to keep up with inflation, labor costs, energy, a big thing this year.
Are you playing the numbers?
Yep. So you did include 2.5% increase on the rates, for FY '24, and that'll be another decision the commissioners will have to make to do that before we strike the budget for FY '24. To adjust the rates for water and sewer services in the sanitary district. If you do nothing, they go up by.
Oh, yeah, you gotta do something,
Yeah, they go up by a higher percentage, like 5%. But you have to actually make a motion to increase the rates at a lower percentage.
So because we didn't do anything, it compounds to the next, you just add, so we do 2.5% escalator every year is really what we did, right?
Yeah.
So we took it past this year.
When we did the rate study in 2010, the commissioners then adopted a resolution, said that they would raise 5.5% for water and 6.5% for sewer unless you acted otherwise.
Right.
We never did, we've never raised them that much.
Right.
Very good. Any other questions?
Good job,
Smooth.
gang.
Oh, we're not done yet. Oh, no. Outside agencies, come on.
It's done. I'm done. It's all done.
Everybody turned them in.
Now, there were some things,
I think we have to make some tweaks.
There were some tweaks that need to be done. You just want to put those tweaks together, and then we'll do it next Thursday or whatever?
No. Come on,
I don't want to tweak them right now.
I don't want to
You
tweak
don't have
them,
anything to tweak, that's why you don't want to do
I want to
it.
help you guys tweak.
No, we don't need tweaking.
I don't need your
Thank
help
you.
with your tweaking. If you send me the.
You do more twerking than tweaking, so.
Tell you what you do.
If you could put together just those items that
We can at
that
least,
you had
we can at least
questions
look at
about.
it, Roy. How about we just look at everybody's selections real quick? Can we do that?
Do we have everybody's in there?
Everybody's, I
Patrick,
believe,
I
is
thought he
in
had
there.
something left over.
I think there is some on the table.
Good, because I want to help him with that.
We're done.
Thank you.
That's it. Way to help the new guy.
So, Alan, how much, what's the timeline for the exit?
Oh, I don't know.
At least.
Not less than 1.5 years?
No,
Excuse me?
I will not be serving another set of commissioners, I can tell you that.
He'll be here till the end.
What if it's the same ones?
Still another set.
Okay. So you got to get somebody in here, or you got the next couple of years to get someone up to speed, right?
Yeah.
From in-house?
From in-house. Yeah, I think that's one of those things where you got to stay in-house. You've got to know these systems inside and out.
Yeah.
Except when we went for the county administrator position. We just got lucky there.
That's right.
Well, look at, we got Pat Thompson up here, and he, the keeper of the Holy Grail, he's got
That's
it
right.
all going on,
Yeah, that's a scary thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Listen, the most important thing is that they have your personality. You're done, Lee.
All right.
You get to go home.
So the blue always writes the grand total.
Right, and then,
We'd be over 689. We only had 500,000.
Who went over 100? Who went over?
oh, that's
The
the
blue is what's
remaining.
left to be funded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
What?
See, so they finally had a color-coded.
We had over 1 million in requests.
Yeah, there's 1 million requested.
Oh, that's who we
Oh, we're
didn't
at
fund.
432,000.
That's who we didn't fund.
Correct.
Oh, phew.
So So there's still 67,500 left.
Okay, is that Patrick, that's your money?
I wasn't listening, I'm sorry.
How much have you,
I've got 35,000 left.
No, you
Left?
have 67,000.
There's actually 67,500 left. Some of the choices you selected actually didn't have an FY '24 request.
You put some in there, didn't have
So-
requests.
We had some lines on there just to kind of show comparisons from prior years of.
Here's the thing, guys.
can you,
If I could just ask this question.
sure.
I haven't had the time I don't know a lot of these.
That's why I said we just roll this to last night like we always used to do it to finalize.
I can just throw the darts, or
Well, I
I
can
can
help
give
you.
you guys $40,000, and next year you give me $40,000.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Come on.
I
Doesn't
might
work
be able
like
to,
that.
I might be
Come
able to,
on.
I might be able to think, let me think about
I'll give
that.
you 10,000 each,
Uh-huh.
and next year you give me 10,000.
Well, you got 67 sitting here.
But I'll change it so that I've got,
The Drug Free Coalition, is that Mac, did they get their ask?
Yeah, I get it.
Jim, the reason
They're
is,
short
is,
2,500.
They're short 2,500, yeah. And VAMS, the veterans, they're looking for more, definitely looking for more.
so the
Wait,
reason
can
I'm
you look back-
thinking
can you
this
look at it
is
again?
If this crisis center helps.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
They're
no,
gonna
no.
need money next year.
Yeah.
So that's all I was asking.
Yeah?
I
No,
could
I'm
do
with you.
60,000, give you each 10,000, and next year you give me 10,000,
for your project,
and then I'll
for
have
the project.
140,000.
Honestly, Patrick, I had enough trouble getting to 100, so I don't need any more.
Yeah, exactly.
I did,
Maybe the same
honestly,
here.
I gave what I felt was proper based on what they've requested in the past, if you read your things, and
Yep.
I went through every one of them, there's a
Yep.
lot of them on there that are still asking for operational.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them that are one-time asks this year.
I agree, but there's a
One-time
lot that we're
apps.
asking for operational, and they were an automatic X, because we've told them, don't ask for operational. And the other thing I think we need to do is we need to cap the ask. These asks for 100,000, 150, 160,000 is ridiculous, they shouldn't even be on there.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but if it is a capital project, just because they ask doesn't mean they get it.
I know, but I'm just saying, that's just too much to ask for the county to do and the taxpayers to do. I get it on, we're looking for return on investment, so.
Right.
I mean, CDEC is looking for 101,000.
Yeah, well, I gave them 100. I gave all mine to them.
Yeah, I
I
know.
want that, as
I know.
It's like Haven Ministries with the homes.
Do we want to make any adjustments to this evening? or do you want-
Send
I
him
mean,
back, send him back to
yeah.
the drawing table.
Did Chris's look okay? I mean, Commissioner Corcoran, he's not here. His
So,
was
so let's do this. Can you get with Patrick and let him know which ones he gave money to that didn't ask and scrub that?
Yeah.
And that's the new number, 67, if you scratch that out?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so,
Remaining, yes.
yeah, so get rid of the ones that you funded that didn't ask for money, which she's done already. Now you're 67,500. You can stop right there if you want and be done, or you can keep going. Or you could choose what's behind door number 3.
Or you can take up my offer, and I'll give you and Jim.
I'm good with what I'm good.
Jim, you want 40 grand?
We'll talk about it the next,
Yeah. Okay.
next,
At least we know where we are now. I know you want to be done with this, but it's important.
We got time.
Yeah.
We do. We got time.
So, one last call. Is there any other agencies you think you would want to see?
well, what's the list going down? So next Thursday?
Next
Who was
Thursday,
in?
we have Department of Corrections, Board of Education, and Capital Projects, and we've covered a lot of the capital stuff,
Yeah.
tonight with DPW and
Right.
Parks. They have the lion's share, so if there's any other groups. And Economic Development and Tourism is gonna be in front of the commissioners at the April 11th regular meeting. So I think Heather was gonna try to catch, the couple questions that the board had about EDIF, and then she wants to get a rental office front down at the outlet center during the construction phase of the Heritage Center.
Is that the outlets?
Yeah, they have a little corner unit, it's
Yeah.
pretty, I forget the amount
It
of
used to
rent.
be like their information center, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay.
She's looking for some rental space there, just to, potentially it could be a permanent spot for them for visibility, but at least during this next summer.
All right.
So, anybody else that you wanted to have come in?
I can't think of it right now. What about Kathy? Did she come in at all?
Kathy Willis, we did not have her scheduled, but we can certainly ask her
I'm
to
sure,
come in.
let's put it this way, are there any heavy enhancements, as in more than one employee that, if anybody wants to?
She had employees, but it was related to the YMCA.
Right, I know she did, yeah, I'm saying, but is there any other, are there any other enhancements that aren't coming in that anybody has any concerns about? If not, then we could just say.
Her department, really.
No, I'm not worried about hers at all, I'm just saying, if there's any other ones from that list that we're not bringing in that somebody would want to question. If you don't, then we're good to
It's
go.
on page 7 again. Karen pulled it up if you want to look at it.
See, there it is, up top. 2 asks.
Yeah, from aging.
And those are
That's
YMCA?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so that was just hers, I'm saying, so, Board of Education's coming in, Chesapeake College, we're having the dinner, and then the fun over there. Community Affairs,
That was not funded.
okay, so we don't have to worry about that. Admin, we already took care of that one.
Those were, there was all
The
funded.
grant writing one, Todd, you only funded half that?
Well, we can adjust that. That was originally under the Department of Emergency
Correct,
Services.
yeah.
And we were gonna pull that out of them and put it under General County Administration, so it covers all the departments.
Right.
And get a 1099, a contractor for that service, so that could be adjusted a bit.
Yeah, I'd take it out and put it wherever you think it needs to go, but we definitely want that grant writer.
Okay.
I mean, that's all this company does,
God,
so
yeah.
I think that would be good
Yeah.
for everybody.
All right.
We already did fire marshal engineering, we did general services, we did roads, we did detention centers coming in.
Yep.
Economic development.
I can tell you the detention center, that's largely transitional positions there for them as well. They're really, really.
Heavy on the office, upper,
They're all, I mean, we got the top 3 managers, the warden, the captain, the major, they all have 30-plus years of service in the organization, and they could,
we need to get some people in there to be part of that transition.
so that's really the
They need to
that
stay,
piece.
that's the key.
Yeah. So, but that's, we can still have.
Is there any way you could get timeframes on their departure? I mean, I know this one was, he said, no next set of commissioners,
I would say we're in that same ballpark.
Okay.
With that group.
The money in EDIF?
Let her explain.
Okay, no, I'm fine, I'm just asking you, I figure you know what.
Well, she'll be in
No,
at
I
the
know what it
regular
is
meeting.
about, and let her explain it.
She's coming in for a general update, so she can cover that
Okay.
then.
But it's better if she explains it, because she gets it to $1 million. So
And then extension services,
that's the ag extension.
okay, there you go.
And one more page, right?
Now, we have an FTC, they didn't come in the other night, were they? No.
Now,
So they weren't here.
Have them come in. We funded their LoSAP and.
their ass, yep.
Human resources, an intern.
Library.
That's
The
what I'm
library was
trying to
here, yeah,
Okay.
you were, yeah.
What'd you guys
IT,
do there? You went with Todd's proposed, those 2
so
positions?
far, yeah, so far,
Okay.
yeah, so far.
So really,
Parks,
5 and 3% merit increase, that's 7.5%.
do we want to bring in the IT guys so they can explain why the speaker doesn't work?
Just for that reason? Then a lot of things are gonna start
here
breaking.
now.
Then a lot of things are gonna start breaking, because all you're gonna do is make them mad. That's it, make them mad, Jim.
And there's one more, this was the conservation specialist position for Donna Smith, as you recall.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's another transitional succession planning position there. So I don't know if you want her to come in. I mean, I think you've heard.
No,
you know.
did she handpick this person?
I don't know if they've got anybody in mind. I'm sure they have some candidates in mind, but,
But so that's a good point on this one. So that one alone, this is an individual that's coming in so Donna can teach her the right way, groom her and show her the ins and outs. And then when Donna leaves, that budget's gonna reduce because she'll be gone.
Right.
Okay. All right.
That's a reenactment from the 2012 budget process. Early out parachutes, people took them, we didn't backfill.
So that enhancement of
Tried
$6
to get
million
Margie to take that parachute, but she wouldn't.
out of, what's the, 12 million? What is the,
We still on?
The increase was 12
Still
million.
yeah, so half of it's on, we're putting on enhancements.
Half is on enhancements.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, the Board of Education
Mute my mic.
enhancement was requested at 4.8 million.
Yeah.
And we funded it at
1.9 right now?
1.9,
Yeah.
about 3%.
What
So
are we gonna get away with?
Well, we do expect the MOE certificate before they come in. I think Jane Towers indicated it was going to be here by the end of this week or early part of next week. So we'll have that MOE certificate. I don't know what that really means to us.
Means nothing.
It just gives us another point of reference, but they've told us they need that amount of money to continue operating the way they're operating today with the teacher salary increases that have happened.
Yeah.
And the state cutting us by 800,000.
Yeah. So that's going to be,
The real pain is, you bring your new teachers in at mandated 60, and then somebody who's making 60 has been a teacher 3 years, well, then you got to boost them, and it just exponentially just becomes a nightmare.
It also comes a problem with all your other people that work in the school system. that
Correct.
Aren't getting that.
Yeah.
The janitorial, the
Yeah,
maintenance people,
and
the bus drivers.
they've been
none of them are
treated,
getting it.
I mean, unfairly, I think, from my position, my perspective.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Well, they're not in
Support staff?
because they're not in the funding formula, they're not in the foundation. So there was
They're not union represented.
nothing in there for them.
Right.
It's all in the teachers.
They don't have an association.
Okay, so we're good just with then corrections coming in addition to economic development on the 11th? Or do you want anybody else?
No, and that is our commissioner meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no.
That's fine,
I'm good.
Fine.
Yeah.
on the 11th.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can wrap up then? you
So it's
think?
just going to be
You guys gotta
corrections
be
and Board of Ed next week then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and then capital, we'll go over all the
Right.
capital stuff.
And that's the 11th.
All right.
That's the 13th.
That's the 13th, yeah.
The 11th is our
Thursday,
regular meeting.
yeah, Tuesday's the 11th,
13th is a work session.
right, it's Thursday.
Do we have
think
the
I have
towns
that.
on the 11th as well?
Yeah, that's right, the towns are
Nothing
coming
Monday.
in for
Tuesday's our
tax
regular
offset.
scheduled commissioners meeting.
Did anybody, I mean, we put the escalator in there
13th
and
is a budget session.
nobody's barking or crying.
No, it was very smooth, yeah.
Good.
I
The,
think
motion
Commissioner
to
Wilson and Jack, you were
adjourn.
at the tax offset meeting with, yeah, and they were all fine, right? I mean,
Yes, they're good.
They got that little escalator we put in there and it's all
Yeah,
good.
we had
They
that
agreed to everything.
here, yeah, so I think they're fine.
Okay.
Yep, all the time.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.